Right, welcome everyone watching on the stream. So we will start in 4 minutes with this session with Deb Dana. So grab a drink, stretch, move, or do whatever you need in order to be comfortable. And if you're watching the replay, so you still have 4 minutes. All right, letting people in as well. Welcome everyone. It's good to see you, those of you who I can actually see. It would be lovely if you could put the camera on, because then we can actually see you. And it's much nicer to talk to actual people than to talk to names on the screen. Hello, Steffi. Hello, Janneke. Leandi, my friend with the horse. It's beautiful to see you. Hello, Natalie from Pennsylvania. It's good to see you. Be courageous. We do stream and we do record later on, but we won't stream or record you. So this is on speaker view. You don't need to worry about this. It's simply for us to have some feedback, which is important when we're talking about trauma, to see how it lands for you and how you are. So please, please, please put the camera on. It's completely fine if you're walking the dog or if you're cooking. Our boundaries around what is appropriate on camera are quite wide. So feel free to put the camera on. All right. So we still have 2 minutes. And what I'm always saying before we're starting a trauma session, get yourself something to drink. I have chamomile tea because it's late for me. Maybe move or stretch, or get yourself a cat to cuddle, which is also very, very helpful if you are talking about trauma. Or a horse, if I'm looking at Leandi. Horses to cuddle are always fun. Hello, Agnes. Good to see you. Thanks for putting the camera on. It's lovely. All right, people are slowly coming in. I hope you're looking forward to the session as I do. I just talked with Deb about a podcast she recently made with Mark, which went a little bit longer than usual. And I'm looking forward to, listen to it as soon as I have time. But I heard it was a lovely one. So looking forward to this session.
We had great fun. It was nice. And I'm looking forward to this session too with all of you. And it's nice to see faces and begin to get to know you.
It's so nice when someone says it was fun to talk about trauma as a topic. You know? It's like it's kind of counterintuitive, but
it's interesting because I think we can get so stuck in the suffering of trauma that we forget that we also have the capacity to have those moments of lightness, of playfulness, and that's a thing that the nervous system shows us that we can have both. It's not an either or. It's a both and. So I think that's important. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. We are on time, so I would like to start the session right away. And I'm starting the recording. So welcome everyone to this hidden trauma summit. Gosh, it's late for me. I'm sorry. It's lovely to have you here. With me here is Deb Dana. But before I'm introducing Deb, let me give a little bit of general announcements, a little bit of safety announcements, which are important. So first of all, my name is Daniela and I'm your session host. If you have any technical difficulties, please do message me privately and I will do my best to help you. Also, thanks to all of those who have the All Access Pass and are here live. As mentioned, it would be lovely if you put the cameras on, because it is lovely to actually see faces, and especially talking about trauma, it's helpful to have some feedback for us to see how things land. If you're watching the replay, you still can purchase the All Access Pass and get into the live Zoom rooms, where you can also ask questions and see the sessions unlimited. We also have question and answer sessions twice a day, which you're warmly invited for. And if you like what we are doing, please do not hesitate and invite people to these sessions, because there might be someone who's very, very grateful if you pass on the link I just posted in the chat. I will talk a little bit more about the courses we're offering at the end, but before I'm starting, let me do some safety things. So talking about trauma can bring things up. And one question I want you to ask yourself, are you actually resourced right now? Or is it kind for you to watch a session on trauma? A good estimation is, if you're able to drive a car, you're probably resourced enough for this session. Please note that this is education and not therapy. So though we might all have some trauma things coming up, if that becomes too much, please reach out to a professional trauma therapist to work with that. And super important, do not binge these sessions. If you notice that you're tensing, getting agitated, or space out, remember, you can actually move, you can stretch, you can get up, shake out, breathe. And you are always free. You always have the choice to switch off the live session and watch the replay later. All right, with that, do let me introduce Deb Dana, which I'm very much looking forward to have her here on this session. Deb is a clinician, consultant, author, and speaker, and she's specializing in complex trauma. Her work is focused on using the lens of polyvagal theory to understand and resolve the impacts of trauma, and in creating ways of working that and under the role of the autonomic nervous system. She's also the founding member of the Polyvagal Institute and developer of the Rhythm of Regulation Clinical Training Service. And with that, I talked enough. Deb, over to you.
Beautiful. Well, it's lovely to see so many of you, and I'm going to share my screen so that we can come together and go through my slides. So yes, engaging the body safety circuit, a polyvagal guide to connection. That's what we're going to wander through today. And as I start, I want to give great gratitude to my dear friend and colleague, Steve Porges, for his development of polyvagal theory, which really is the science of connection. I like to call it the science of feeling safe enough to fall in love with life and take the risks of living. So let's dive in and see. So trauma, there's so many ways of thinking about trauma and ways of defining trauma. This is Steve's definition. And I think if we think of trauma through the lens of our biology, through the lens of the nervous system, this is a really great way to think about it. Trauma is simply a chronic disruption of connection, because we are biologically wired to be in connection, to need connection. So when we have this disruption, it is a traumatic experience for our nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is the common denominator in our human experience. When we think about connection, the nervous system connects us person to person across the globe. It is a common denominator. So what we're exploring today is true for each nervous system. There's an outline we follow, and then within that outline, we each have our own unique experience. So we're going to start by just taking a quick look at the hierarchy. This is the polyvagal predictable pathway hierarchy. At the top of the hierarchy is ventral vagal, which is the system of safety and connection. This is where we come together. We feel safe enough, organized enough to be in community, and health, growth, and restoration happens here. And then one step down the hierarchy is the sympathetic nervous system, where in its survival energy, it brings us fight and flight. So the protection is through action. And then at the bottom of the hierarchy is the other branch of parasympathetic, the dorsal vagal system. And in its survival state, it brings us immobilization, collapse, disconnection. So these three experiences are alive and active in each of us at all times. And we move through them in intense ways and in small ways every day. So dorsal is this sense of disconnection, untethered, floating. These next words are what my clients told me all the time. They felt lost, alone, abandoned, and unreachable. So when we're in this place, the stories that emerge are stories of disappearing, of disconnection, of despair. So you can see from this state of dorsal survival, connection, community, co-regulation is not possible, not because we don't want it, but because our biology is not allowing that to happen. Instead, we're in this place of disconnection. If I'm in this place of dorsal, you don't exist. The world does not exist. I'm just floating. And if we move up one to sympathetic, to that sympathetic survival energy, that mobilization of fight and flight, here are the twin pathways of anxiety and anger. Okay, so that's the flight anxiety, the fight anger, and those are the pathways that emerge here. There's a disrupted connection to ourself, to others, to the world, and to spirit. And the stories that emerge here are stories of being in an unsafe world, surrounded by unsafe people. So again, you can see that my capacity to come into connection, to engage with community, is limited here. The sympathetic world is one of polarities. So it's me against you, it's us against them. There's that sort of a sense in sympathetic. So if I am connected with someone against other people. It's only when we come here to the ventral state that we truly can connect with safety, compassion, regulation to self, others, the world, and spirit. And in this place, we reach out for and we offer support. We can co-regulate, we can be with others and co-regulate, and we can self-regulate. And here, the stories that emerge are ones of connection, community, and possibility. Right, so you can see that this is the place that our nervous system really, when we're here, it brings us physical and psychological well-being. And yet the other two states, the two survival states, are needed as well. Right, and the goal for well-being is not to always be in this place of ventral connection. Right, that's an impossible goal, unachievable. Right, the goal is to know, where am I? Am I in this place of ventral connection, or have I traveled to sympathetic or dorsal survival? So to be aware, to acknowledge where I am, and then have a way to get back here, what I call home, to get back home to this state of ventral. So that's the hierarchy. We're going to look at 3 principles of polyvagal theory. That was hierarchy. Then we have neuroception, and then we're going to look at co-regulation. Those are the 3 basic principles of polyvagal theory. Hierarchy being where I chose to start, because I think it's important for us to know we have these 3 states and we're moving in and out of them in various ways all the time. We're also moving within them. So there are many flavors of ventral. I can be at ease and I can be passionate and playful, all ventral. There are many flavors of sympathetic. I can be, a bit anxious, highly anxious, panicked. I can be angry or rageful. There are lots of different flavors. And dorsal, the same. Dorsal, I can be going through the motions without really feeling as though I'm here, or I can be fully dissociated and disconnected. And what happens to bring these states alive is neuroception. This is the detection without awareness. And neuroception is the term that Steve Porges created to describe how the nervous system listens through these 3 pathways. And so it can then assess safe or unsafe. So it describes the way the nervous system takes in this information without the benefit of our cortex. Right? So it's a subcortical experience, an unaware experience that we need to bring awareness to if we want to use it. So neuroception is listening to messages through these 3 pathways, inside our bodies, outside in the environment, and between people. And as those messages get brought in, neuroception makes a judgment. If it feels safe or safe enough, it will then let us be in ventral. It will bring ventral alive. If it feels it's dangerous, it's going to first go to sympathetic. survival, fight and flight, to see if it can get us out of the danger, or if it feels it's life-threatening or sympathetic will not work or doesn't work, it's then going to take us to dorsal, to that place of disconnection. So that's the order. Neuroception brings it alive in that order. So let's listen. I think what I'd like to do now is invite you to go on a bit of an autonomic adventure with me. I'm going to show you some slides, and I want you to tune into your neuroception. See if you can give your brain a break. And again, what your brain does is it takes the information that is being fed up from your nervous system, and 80% of the pathway of your ventral experience, of your vagal experience, 80% is body to brain. So it's getting that flood of information. And then the brain's job is to make sense of what's going on in the body. So the brain pretty quickly makes up a story, right? Because we humans are storytelling beings. We need story. We use story to find ourselves. But what happens for the brain is it gets this flood of neuroceptive information and it makes a story. And what I'm going to invite you to do for this next short slideshow is see if you can invite your brain to take a back seat, to watch with you, but not bring the story right away, and simply see, are you drawn into connection with the image? And is there a desire to move closer? Is there a curiosity that emerges? That would be ventral. Your neuroception would bring ventral. Do you feel a need to get away from the image or a need to fight back against it? And that would be your sympathetic response. Or do you feel yourself fading away, not able to hold the image in your awareness? And that would be that dorsal disconnect response. So just see if you can take in, where do these images take you? So my question is, how did those images land in your system? Right. And if we were together, we would be sharing how they landed, because what we know from lots of work showing images and hearing responses is that each image can have a very different landing space in each system. So if you think about the blue door, the steps leading up to the blue door, that's an image that gets a variety of responses. Some people will say, "Oh, I really was curious. I wanted to walk up the steps, open the door, and see what was on the other side." That may be you. Other people say, "Oh, it felt really scary to me that something was on the other side of that door and was going to burst out, so I needed to get away." That might be you. And other people will say, "I just totally lost track of the slides and I missed what came afterwards." That might be you, right? Same image, but it's fed into our neuroception and then filtered through our experience, our autonomic experience. So our responsibility is to tune into what happens in our own nervous system, to know, oh, here's where that took me. Here's where I am right now. Right, I'm really anchored in ventral. Oh, I've got a lot of sympathetic going on, right? Or that image really touched me in a scary way, right? Our responsibility is to know this about our own system, and then to be curious about what's happening in another nervous system. So I may know, oh, I'm having an intense experience around this slide. Where is it taking you, right? I'm curious about that. And again, remember, curiosity is an emergent property of ventral. So in order to be curious about what's happening for you, I have to have enough ventral going on in my system to be anchored there. So now let's get to co-regulation, which is that third organizing principle and really the essence of pathways of connection coming into engagement. Right. So we did hierarchy. We know the three states briefly. We did neuroception. We understand that embodied environmental and relational pathways are moving us in and out of states. And now we have this third organizing principle, co-regulation. And the question the nervous system is always asking, is it safe to connect? Right? That is the question that it's asking, because we come into the world wired for connection. Connection is a biological imperative, meaning we don't survive unless we have it, right? And that need for connection, to be, held safely in the arms of another, to connect with another person in that deep, resonant way, that is a lifelong need. And for many trauma survivors, when we begin to understand that we're wired for connection, we long for connection, and we're waiting for connection, that can be terrifying, right? Because our experience with connection may have been that it's unsafe, it's unpredictable, right? It's dangerous. And this is what's going on all the time, are these two things, the drive to survive and the longing to connect, right? So we have a longing to connect. It is built into all of us. And yet sometimes my longing to reach out and be with this other person feels unsafe to my nervous system. It brings a neuroception of danger. And so then the drive to survive is going to keep me out of that connection. So I have that polarity again, that thing happening where they're in opposition to each other. I long to reach out for connection to this person, and yet my nervous system is saying, no, unsafe. Right? Sometimes these work together, they work in cooperation. So I have a longing to reach out and connect, and my nervous system, through neuroception, checks out those pathways, embodied, environmental, relational, and says, yes, this is safe enough. Go ahead. Right? This is what's going on inside us all the time. So when we send cues of welcome, when we send cues of safety, we're sending an invitation to connect, right? And when we receive cues of safety, we feel this autonomic welcome and feel safe enough to move into connection and co-regulation, right? This is all done in a nervous system to nervous system experience, right? We can bring it into explicit awareness and add our brain's capacity to work with us. But at its beginning level, this is all done in an implicit way. And again, I love this image. I think images are incredibly powerful and useful in helping my system regulate and exploring places where I might think are my growing edges and places where are my resources. This image, as I was looking for images, really spoke to me of the safety of connection and co-regulation. And again, you can check for your system. Does that do that for you, or do you get taken somewhere else? And then here, when we send cues of danger, an autonomic warning from another system, our reactivity increases and our adaptive survival responses are reinforced, right? If I'm sending cues of danger, or I'm receiving warnings from another nervous system, I'm simply going to enter into my survival state, and I'm going to be deeply held there. And that survival state, that pattern of protection, is going to get reinforced. Okay, we have patterns of protection, patterns of connection. And the more we enter into them, the more they are reinforced. And again, this is an image that for me identified, this warning, the sympathetic fiery fist and the dorsal sort of gray watery fist, for me, represented that. So this is a quote by Seaburn Fisher, who's a neurofeedback expert here on the East Coast. And I think it's just a lovely way of thinking about it. Without the experience of an organizing other, the nervous system is stunned, right? Well, we all need that safe co-regulating other in our worlds in order to feel safely embodied, to engage with the world. to be able to find our way to ventral. And when we think about, the people we are in contact with, I'm a therapist, so when I think of my role as a therapist, but also my role as a partner and a parent and a colleague and a friend, I'm responsible for being regulated. Because unless I am regulated, I can't offer that regulating experience to anyone else. So we are responsible for beginning to understand our system, to creating skill in coming to that ventral place of regulation, and then to offer that out into the world to others. So the question we're always asking is, what message is our nervous system sending? So in this moment, and the nervous system is a moment-to-moment experience, right? In this moment, my hope is that I'm sending you an autonomic welcome, that I'm sending you cues of safety, right? And I keep asking myself, in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, right? Tonight, my nervous system may send a very different signal out into people around me. Maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm done, maybe I don't want to connect, right? But that's my job, is to keep asking myself, what message is my nervous system sending? So if you were going to take a moment right now and think, through the very simple introduction you had to ventral, connection, community, safety, regulation, sympathetic, fight, flight, me against you, us against them, dorsal, disconnect, world, people are too fuzzy to really connect with. Just notice, where are you right now? And then what message is your nervous system sending out into the world? And again, this is information gathering that we do when we begin to get to know our nervous system. This is not a good or bad. If you're in sympathetic or dorsal, it's where your nervous system has taken you. And the thing we want to remember is your nervous system always acts in service of your survival. So there's a good reason it's taken you there. Right. And it may be based on past experience, which is what happens for trauma survivors, right? Something familiar from the past reaches into the present and takes hold. And then neuroception feels it and takes us to a survival state. Right. And so one of the things we do when we're working with this is we ask the discernment question, because we want to bring present moment awareness to our experience. So the question is, in this moment, in this place, with this person or these people, is this response needed? Not is it appropriate, because the nervous system is simply acting in service of survival, but is it needed? Right? And that question, was it needed in this moment, helps us regulate differently. So again, in this moment, just check in, what message is your nervous system sending? So the social engagement system, which is formed through this evolutionary integration of 5 cranial nerves. Cranial nerve 10 is this vagal pathway we've been talking about. Cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 11 joined in the brainstem. And here's a better image of it. Here's the beautiful image of these facial cranial nerves, 5 cranial nerves joining together in the brainstem. And they join in the search for connection through our eyes, ears, voice, face, and head movements. This is what's happening all the time. This social engagement system that is a biological creation, is fascinating, is always searching and sending. So one way that you can begin to play with this is to identify these signs of warning, right? What are the signals that send a warning to you? What is it about their eyes, voice, face, and head gestures that tell you to keep your distance? So you can go through this and you can get really clear. Their eyes signal danger when, and be really concrete. When what? Right? When they're focused and they feel like it's a stare, maybe. Tone of voice sounds like a warning when. Face expresses dysregulation when. These are the things to get to know about how you're receiving, how your neuroception is taking in. And then how are you sending? Right? How are you sending warnings out to the world that are letting others know, don't come near me now? Through your eyes, tone of voice, facial expression, and gestures. This is important for us to begin to understand. And then we want to do the welcome, right? We always want to do both the warning and welcome. So again, do this with the welcome. What is it about someone's eyes, voice, face, and gestures that send you a welcome, that invite you to come into connection? And when we know that, then we can begin to look for it and replicate that. When we know what the warning signs are specifically, we can work to reduce them or we can stay away from them. It's really good information for us when I know, oh, when somebody does this with their voice, it's a warning to me. When somebody does this with their voice, it's a welcome. That's important information for us to know. We can then share it with people we care about. And then also, how are the ways your own eyes, voice, face, and gestures invite others to come into connection? And when you figure that out, practice sending those signals out into the world, right? Practice. It's a way to begin to shape the world for more ventral safety. And that's what we need in this moment, right? So if we feel the face-heart connection, and that really is what's happening, we have that one pathway to our heart, which is the ventral vagal pathway, cranial nerve 10, and then the 5, 7, 9, and 11 nerves in your face. They form an actual face-heart connection. And I'm going to end by inviting you to join in this experience, this reflective experience of feeling your face-heart connection. So if you place your hands at the base of your skull, right, here's the place in your brainstem where the evolutionary origin of your social engagement system begins. Put your attention on the place where your brainstem meets your spinal cord. This is the space where 5 cranial nerves come together to form the pathways of your face-heart connection. This is the hub of your social engagement system. Rest here for just a moment and sense the beginnings of your quest for connection. And now move your hands. Place one hand on the side of your face and the other hand over your heart. And then feel the flow of energy moving between your hands, traveling from your face to your heart and your heart to your face. Follow this pathway in both directions. This is the bi-directional pathway. Follow it in both directions. Explore the ways your face-heart connection searches for contact and signals safety. Sense this system reaching out into the world. Listen for sounds of welcome, looking for friendly faces and turning and tilting your head, seeking safety. Feel your heart joining in this search. And now let's change and feel the system broadcasting signals of safety out into the world. Your eyes, your voice, your head movements, inviting others to come into connection. Your heart is sending its own welcome. Move between these two experiences, sending and searching, broadcasting and receiving. And take some time to savor the pathways of this beautiful, amazing face-heart connection. Thank you. All right, I will stop my share and come back to see faces because I could see a few faces. It would be very nice right now. Lovely to see people.
That was lovely, Deb.
Thank you.
Lots of gratitude coming in the chat. I think it was like very short and juicy. And for me, it was, I think, the clearest presentation of Polyvagal's theory I saw so far. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was short, and I will say that my nervous system was trying to put more in and then saying, no, give a little space. So I'm hoping that you all came along for the ride with me, and you can go back and look at it again anyway. So thank you.
Exactly. So I think it was rich enough that it's worth to watch the replays. But before we're going on to this, I would like to ask you to put 1 or 2 things you're taking away from this session. Like often in learning, we're trying to close this circle, and reflection is important because that actually manifests the learning. in our body. So please write down in the chat or for yourself what you're taking away. Can be just a few words, can be a sentence. While you're doing that, do let me thank Debdana for these wonderful sessions. Remember that you can still invite people. So if you enjoyed this session and if you think someone would actually benefit from this session, please do invite them. We're just on day 2 of this summit, and replays will be available until the 22nd of September. So also, if your friends are joining in, they can still watch this wonderful session. Also, we do appreciate a share of this session or of this event. Last but not least, there will be a lot of new things coming up. So do let me first share a couple of important links, which you might want to use for those of you who are looking for the replays or for what else you can do in order to heal trauma. So we do have a course on this, which is fairly cheap. Check that out. And last but not least, do let me share my screen to let you know what's actually coming up. Just a moment. I will find the right, there it is. And here we go. So lots of things which are still coming up. You do have the schedule. We are just here. The next session will be with Patricia on how forgotten trauma shows up today. A lot of other things are coming up in the next couple of days on general trauma, also on specifics. You will certainly find something which will serve your needs. So you see, we do have a rich content. Check it out, share it, and I hope to see you in one of the following sessions this week. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deb, Dana.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.